Hello, friends. I'm the Reverend Terry Peterson, minister of St. John's in Guruk. Today is Wednesday, the 10th of March. It is the 19th day in the season of Lent, and it is time for our 19th object. Now, I'm standing here in the kitchen, which might give you a bit of a clue as to today's object. It is the fridge. Yay! Who doesn't love the refrigerator? I love the refrigerator because it's full of snacks. This fridge, as you can see, I have covered with magnets of places I have been, and also drawings from kids in the church, and one of my favorite sayings on a note card. Faith is believing that one of two things will happen, that there will be something solid for you to stand on, or that you will be taught to fly. So my fridge has magnets from a church I visited in France that's got a labyrinth in the floor, from visiting the Prime Meridian at Greenwich, Edinburgh Castle, a taping of my favorite radio show from Chicago Public Radio, the Thomas Jefferson Memorial, all sorts of places and things. And of course, inside the fridge is what's best about it, right? We've got leftovers, veggies, lots of veggies, butter, the good things in life. So I learned recently that we have only had refrigeration for less than 150 years. There's been other ways of trying to keep things cool, of course, cold flowing water or snow, ice boxes, things like that. But what we think of as refrigerator is really recent in human history. For most of human history, keeping food fresh has not been possible, or at least not for the length of time that we do it, right? I can keep food fresh in the fridge for days or weeks, depending on what it is. And the freezer is even longer. I can keep things in the freezer for ages, months even. But we still are not able to keep things forever, right? Like, things don't keep forever in the fridge. And in fact, sometimes we fill our fridges with things that are still going to go to waste because we just don't have the time or inclination to eat them before they go off. So it's a great invention, the refrigerator, but it does not solve our food waste problem, and it doesn't solve our sort of hoarding of food problem either, right? Like, I have more food in this kitchen than I can reasonably eat. I mean, it would take me weeks probably to eat every single thing in the kitchen, and some imagination to turn everything into a meal. I suspect many of us are like that, right? It would take me 2 or 3 weeks to eat everything. Longer if I include the freezer, maybe 3 or 4 weeks to get through everything. I bet that's true for most of us. We're able to keep things, but then sometimes, as we saw, for instance, at the beginning of the pandemic, sometimes we are prone to buying more things than we need, and that means other people don't have enough. This is also true on a global scale, and it doesn't take a pandemic for that. We have far more food available to us than we can eat in some parts of the world, and not enough food to keep people alive, let alone thriving, in other parts of the world. And that's not the fault of the refrigerator, but it is something that I think we ought to be thinking about what God calls us to do and how God calls us to love our neighbor in a world where I can store food for weeks or months while other people don't have clean water or electricity or enough to eat. They're not able to store food, and even if they were, they don't have any food to store. So I was thinking about this and about food storage and all these things, and there is this passage in Luke's Gospel in chapter 12 that is super uncomfortable, but Lent is about examining ourselves and growing, and sometimes that means being uncomfortable, right? So in chapter 12 in Luke's Gospel, Jesus tells a story. It says, starting in verse 16, "Then he told them a parable. The land of a rich man produced abundantly. And he thought to himself, 'What should I do? For I have no place to store my crops.' Then he said, 'I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, and be merry.' But God said to him, 'You fool, this very night your life is being demanded of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be?' So it is with those who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich toward God." So it is for those who store up treasures for themselves, but are not rich toward God. That's what I think about when I think about how easy it is for me to have more food than I need, and how difficult it is for people who don't have enough. What can we do about that to ensure, first of all, that everyone has enough, and second, that we are not storing up things for ourselves, but we are poor in the things of God? And we remember that the first commandment is love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And a second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. On these two things hang all the law and the prophets. These are the two things we use to interpret all of Scripture. So when we think about our food habits, can we think about other people's needs as well? Because, of course, food is a gift and we love it and enjoy it, but it is also a reminder about how we can love our neighbor. So pondering our food storage and our love of neighbor so that we can be rich in the things of God as well as in all of these things in our homes. That is the thought for the 19th day of Lent. So I will see you again tomorrow, and we will be halfway through the season of Lent. Until then, peace be with you.